Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Kathy Morgan, and I am co-president of the Ventura County League. Before we start, I would like to make a few announcements. Please remain muted throughout the session. There will be a Q&A session after we hear from Claudia today, so if you have any questions for her, please put them into the chat directed to Betsy Patterson. Finally, I would like to advise you that this session is being recorded, and the link to the recording will be available on our website within about 48 hours. The link to the website will be put in the chat. We are very happy to have you join us today. The League of Women Voters engages in many activities to ensure that our democracy works, such as registering voters, providing information about the issues and the candidates, but also providing information about the way our government works. The goal of this session is to learn more about the role of our County Public Defender's Office, as well as the consequences of the passage of Proposition 36 from last fall's election. We hope that you will find it very informative. Now, I would like to introduce our speaker, Claudia Bautista. Claudia is the head public defender of Ventura County and is responsible for overseeing and managing all internal operations of the Public Defender's Office. Since 2001, she has served in a variety of roles in the Public Defender's Office, moving up the ranks until becoming the head public defender. She is the county's first female public defender, first person of color to hold the position, first native Spanish speaker, and first public defender born in another country. Claudia received her Bachelor of Arts from UCLA and her Juris Doctorate from the University of Wisconsin Law. She is a recipient of the Richard Irwin Trial Attorney of the Year Award. Ms. Bautista is devoted to leading both her clients and colleagues to success. She strives for a harmonious workplace, promoting inclusion, trust, and collaboration, and focusing on shared strengths and priorities. Welcome, Claudia, and thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Kathy, and good afternoon to everyone who is here on the Zoom and everyone who is going to listen to this afterwards. I'm very honored, and I definitely really appreciate the invitation to share a little bit about the Public Defender's Office, what our office primarily, how it fits in county government, but also how it fits within the spectrum of public safety, because I very much believe that the public defender and my office play a vital role in public safety, along with those members like the sheriff, the district attorney, and probation, because I think all components make up the functioning of the criminal legal system. So I'm really honored to answer any questions and certainly provide hopefully some information that is vital to everyone within the League of Women Voters and to community members here in Ventura County. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I would think we would all benefit from a deeper understanding of the workings of the Public Defender's Office. So I thought we would start there. And my first question is, we all know the county DA is elected, but your position, I believe, and I believe I'm correct, is by appointment.
Right.
Why is that? And then following up on that, who appoints you? What is the process, and to whom do you report?
So yes, very uniquely, the public defender here in Ventura County is not elected. So some of you may know that the public defender, and there are other counties where the public defender is elected. For example, San Francisco, they run for office, and the public defender here in Ventura was created by charter back in 1946, where it did not need to be the accountability piece of the public defender. Comes from the Board of Supervisors, and when there's a vacancy in my position in the Public Defender's Office, there's a recruitment for it, and people apply, and you submit your application. You get interviewed by the Chief Administrative Officer, and then ultimately there's a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, and then you're appointed by the Board of Supervisors. We are subject, so the accountability of that comes from reviews by so my boss is the Chief Executive Officer, which today would be Dr. Savette Johnson, and they then give updates to the Board of Supervisors in terms of the work that we do and how we manage. And part of that is how I manage the office, right? efficient as well as accountable on the spending of public funds, which is all of your taxpayer money that comes to funding my office, which currently is 138 employees, total of 138 employees, 67 attorneys, 15 investigators, and 46 support or administrative staff. And how, some of you may think how in comparison that is to the district attorney's office. So I have 138 employees in total. That includes myself, my management staff. The district attorney has 318. And so, we have 67 attorneys. They have over 120 attorneys. We have 15 investigators. They have close to over 80. And the support staff, we have 47. They have close to 80.
So is that because the DA's office prosecutes all the cases in the county, whereas the public defender's office, some people being prosecuted might choose to have a private attorney defending them, correct? And the public defender's office, therefore, does not handle as many cases as the DA? Is that why there's the big discrepancy in staffing and presumably budget?
So that may be one factor. And I don't know how much, historically it goes back, but consistently, the public defender is not even 1/2 of the budget of the district attorney's office. And yes, they may receive close to 25,000. I think that's the latest figure that the district attorney has said, that they process close to 25,000 submissions to their office for prosecution. That doesn't mean that they prosecute 25,000 cases. So for example, for us, the district attorney, and certainly our latest figures are the district attorney in 2024 filed close to or over 14,000 cases. And so our office will represent 80% of those cases.
Oh, okay.
And some of those, also one other component to understand is that not all the cases that get filed actually go to litigation, right? Our system, over 93% of the cases that get filed in the criminal legal system plead at the early stages. That means at arraignment. And so it doesn't translate into continued litigation. And what I mean by continued litigation is to a hearing where evidence is presented and where there may need to be investigation and where they may need to ultimately be a trial that leads to a sentence. Does that make sense?
I think that does make sense. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
So you talked a little bit about some of the cases. Well, what types of cases do you handle? For instance, do you only handle criminal cases? Do you handle civil cases, immigration cases? And also, are you doing any of the do you handle the more complex cases yourself, or do you just supervise those who do handle them?
Right. So I'm going to tackle the easiest one first, which is that I manage a $23 million budget.
Mm-hmm.
So in managing that budget, it doesn't really leave me that much time to have a caseload. So I am very proud of the fact that I have a 7-person management team, and that executive team handles the managing of everyday cases. They don't have a caseload either.
Okay.
The cases that we handle are prescribed by the government code. So it does involve the cases that we handle primarily have to be within what's defined in the government code. So first is the appointment, right? The appointment of the public defender is governed by the government code, which means that we represent those individuals who cannot afford to hire private counsel. And why do we get appointed? Because the Constitution mandates that everyone facing a deprivation of their liberty is entitled, and it is a constitutional mandate that they have an attorney. And for us, given the government code, that is within the sphere of criminal law. Okay, so we handle cases, we handle misdemeanors, felonies, we handle cases in the deprivation of liberty when it comes to mental health hospitals. So anybody who's confined in a psychiatric facility against their will. We also handle criminal contempts that may arise out of a failure to pay child support. We also represent those in probate conservatorships, because oftentimes a petition that is filed to conserve somebody is also a deprivation of liberty, and they're entitled to an attorney to represent them. We may also have attorneys who represent clients in a post-conviction setting, such as someone who may violate coming out of a prison sentence, someone where the law changed and they may be in prison in the Department of Corrections and need to come back. We handle those cases also. Thankfully, we have the support of the Board of Supervisors, who really listened to us when we said that in order for us to competently and constitutionally represent our clients, we needed to have in-house immigration attorneys. And those immigration attorneys, we had one immigration attorney 5 years ago. Now we have two immigration attorneys. And the reason, and that comes as a result of the board being supportive of the fact that the Supreme Court has come out 20 years ago, came out with a case called Padilla, that mandated that in order for us to competently represent a client, if they were undocumented, non-citizens, or those who may be here on a visa, if they were charged with the crime, they needed to be advised of what the consequence of entering into a plea or being found guilty of a crime would be. And so the Supreme Court said, if you don't address that, that puts in jeopardy the criminal conviction. Therefore, we have to advise clients of the consequences of any plea or sentence that may have an immigration consequence. So it's vital that we ask our clients, irrespective of how they may present to us, right? Everyone gets asked their status in the United States. And so we don't directly ask them, are you illegal? We don't ask that. We have, part of the interview process is, what is your legal status in the United States? Is it? And then they can, they pretty much need to advise us, or once we know what their status is, that leads us in the direction of how we need to represent them. These two immigration attorneys that we have in our office do not practice in federal court. So we don't, we give them the advice, and our attorneys go to these immigration lawyers to seek advice on, my client is charged with assault with a deadly weapon. What should my advice be to them about what the immigration consequences are going to be? And so that's the role of our immigration attorneys. The role of our immigration attorneys is also to advise to, some of you may see them out in the community at Swap Meet Justice or at expungement clinics, to, excuse me, to advise those interested of expunging their records for purposes of immigration, or getting their, dealing with prior convictions that might be 20, 30 years old, that may be having consequences in terms of them being able to naturalize in this country.
Well, that's very interesting information. And yes, I have seen some of your attorneys at Swap Meet Justice, and I've read about the expungement clinic. So you also do some community outreach, it sounds like, your office.
Yes.
And that's wonderful. So I think you kind of mentioned this. One of the questions was, who are the typical clients of the office? For instance, limited income and legal status, and how much do they pay, if anything, for the services you provide? Do you have anything else you want to add to that?
No, so it is free of charge. There was legislation passed by the state, because every state is different. And in California, there's currently legislation that takes the burden from an indigent person to pay for their own legal representation, right? It wants to take that element out, because I think there can be a perception that the more money you have, the better your representation, or that
if I offer to pay the public defender, maybe they'll work harder for my case. And that's just not, that's a perception that I think certainly when I started 24 years ago, there was, but certainly not today. So no, they don't pay for their own representation. And the fees, any fees and fines that are imposed on criminal cases, there's always the opportunity to get those reduced by a judicial officer. And oftentimes our indigent clients, we ask that fees and fines be at their minimum.
So you mentioned what your budget was.
Yeah.
How is your department funded? Is it all through property taxes, or where does the money come from?
All of you. Primarily, we are 98% a general fund department, which means that there are very few instances where we can apply for grants. The state, certainly in the last 10, 15 years, has really not offered very much money to public defenders' offices to try to make their services better, to improve on their services, or target our services based on a grant. I say that was like 10 years ago, because I think that the state is more open now to offer those types of grants to public defense. For example, in March of this year, received a grant by the state, the Board of State Community Corrections, which is a state agency, a grant to reduce recidivism. So what is recidivism? Recidivism is having a person cycle through the criminal legal system. So it's getting arrested, getting the case resolved, then coming back. And if that person has come back into the criminal legal system within 3 years, it is counted against the recidivism rate. And so what this grant, which is a $7 million grant over 3 years, what we have done is created a program to try to break that cycle of cycling through the criminal legal system. Because what we have found, and certainly what for myself, being in this system, practicing for the last 24 years, what we know is that our clients and what is happening in their lives, the criminal case is just one aspect of what's happening. Oftentimes it's not only do we address the criminal case, but oftentimes we have to start addressing housing, poverty, home, food insecurity, maybe some like child custody issues. And so what we try to do is to assist in any way that we can to try to help and balance them out, even though we're in charge of the criminal case. And so what this grant does is primarily target those clients who are suffering from substance use disorder or mental illness. And what we will do is connect them with treatment through interface, or through mental health treatment through Turning Point. And so our mandate is to assist as many clients as we can during this 3-year period, collect data to show that our interventions actually have results, which means that that client who without an intervention would have come through the system 3 or 4 times doesn't come through the system anymore, because we've addressed their substance use, we've addressed their housing, we've addressed their mental illness, and possibly other collateral aspects of their life. So I'm very excited about this. We have the support of the sheriff, we have the support of the district attorney, and we're hoping that it actually makes a difference in the lives of our clients.
It certainly sounds like it could. So who handles, do they have like case managers or social workers in your department that handle this kind of outreach to like Turning Point and interface? Or I can't imagine the attorneys are doing that.
No, so this grant will allow us, in partnering with community-based organizations like Turning Point and Interface, they take over the case management. Okay. They take over the treatment. They take over all of that, because we, like very astutely, Kathy, you said we just don't have the capacity for that, right? And that's why the money assists with that capacity.
Excellent.
And the majority of the funds will go to
to these organizations to assist with their case management, the reporting, and the monitoring.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on that grant.
you.
I believe I was in the Board of Supervisors meeting last March when you received that grant, and I thought that sounded wonderful. So I had another question that about community outreach. So you've talked about some of the community outreach you do, like at the Swap Meet Justice and the expungement clinics. I know you're also involved in the Public Safety Racial Equity Advisory Group. Are there other efforts of community service that your office is involved in that we might not know about?
So we're also you'll also see us at One Stop. So One Stop is where all county, it's sort of like a Swap Meet Justice, but for county agencies. Where you will have behavioral health, the healthcare agency, child support, as well as us. It's every day, and I think our office is there on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it allows individuals to come and ask questions either about their criminal case, or about expungement, or about treatment, whether it's substance treatment and substance use, or treatment with mental illness. So our immigration attorney, I think, goes once a week, and we have members of our paralegal and sentencing specialists who attend. And we are also very active currently, as I'm sure your membership can understand. We're very active in when we get invitations to do Know Your Rights. So we will connect with community-based organizations such as Buen Vecino, that some of you may be familiar with. I think we just did a community outreach at a Unitary Church in Newbury Park over the weekend. And so we try to do as many outreaches as we can. As you can imagine, we're kind of limited in our scope because we do these on our own time. And our staff members are volunteering on their Saturdays and Sundays to be at these locations. And I'm proud of the fact that, we're all committed in the mission of making a difference in our community by empowering them to know what their rights are, empowering them to know how to expunge their prior criminal cases, or how to take care of outstanding fees and fines that sometimes hinder someone from getting a better FICO score, because a better FICO score gets them into better housing, a better credit score because gets them a better job, or whatever the outcome may be. So yeah.
It sounds like you have a very dedicated staff, so kudos to you and your staff.
Absolutely, 100%.
Are there any major challenges of your office that you would like to expound on that you haven't discussed already?
Yeah. So one thing that I think that I'd like to highlight is back to the grant perspective, and that may be some level of, and the reason I put this information out, because there may be a level of advocacy that can be done by members of the community, is that, for example, when the governor comes out and says we are giving in this case, we are giving $18 million to prosecute coordinated retail theft. That means that they're giving $18 million to the sheriff and the district attorney to create task forces to prosecute them. 80, if not, so if their task force arrests 10 people from this grant, we will represent 8, if not 9 of those persons charged with that through that task force. In this calculus, never is thought given to the fact that all 10 of those individuals are entitled to representation. And the burden then comes on my office to represent them. And I did not get a piece of that $18 million.
Right.
And for each case, we are mandated to go to the scene, get the body cam video, go get the video of the place that it was involved, to interview witnesses. Unlike the district attorney in this task force, the police department has investigated. They have created a report. They have talked to witnesses. So the district attorney isn't even involved, and it's already been investigated. When it comes to my office, we have to do it all from scratch. Why? Because that is a constitutional right to make sure that we are challenging the evidence at every stage. That making sure that whether you plead guilty or you take it to jury trial, your constitutional rights are protected. But once again, going back to the original point of funding, right? That money didn't come to us to do.
Right.
We have to do it.
So it sounds like you're at a big disadvantage on the funding.
Very much so.
Mm.
Despite hearing that my budget is $23 million, but 98% of it is from the general fund, and 98% of it goes to just salaries and benefits.
So, wow. So that sounds like a pretty major challenge. One last question on this came from one of our board members. How does the Ventura County Public Defender's Office compare with others in the state?
So size-wise, so we're not certainly LA, Los Angeles County, Orange County, San Diego County, Riverside County, or San Bernardino. Those are large public defender offices with large budgets and resources. So we're a medium size. We're still considered somewhat of a moderate medium size, 850,000. If we go in that category, we're actually doing pretty well, because we do have comparatively light. So now we're comparing public defender to public defender's offices. We thankfully have sentencing specialists that can assist with advising our clients on the collateral consequences of their pleas. We have investigators, and while it's not a ratio of one investigator per attorney, we're doing fine, and clerical support also. Because what I think one point of pride for myself, while I've been the public defender in this office for my office for the last 5 years, I was appointed in October of 2020. With the help of my management staff, we've really been focused on what is attorney work and what can be handled by what administrative tasks can be handled by our professional staff, what can be handled by an investigator, what can be handled by a sentencing specialist, so that the attorney doesn't have to be a Swiss Army knife, right? They can focus on the litigation. They can focus on how to direct the investigation, how to direct a sentencing specialist towards getting a program for their client who's suffering from substance use or from a mental illness. And I think certainly in the last, like I said, since my appointment in the last 6 years, we have been laser focused in getting that done. So I'm very proud of that work.
Well, thank you for that. Now that we have a better understanding of your office and all of the things you have to do, I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about Proposition 36, which, as we mentioned, passed last fall. Could you please give us a brief description of it and how it relates to Proposition 47, which was passed 10 years earlier?
Sure. And that's a great question that I think drives some of the so let me back up, because I don't think we can understand Prop 36 as you've identified without understanding Prop 47 and what Prop 47 in 2014 was trying to do. And that was Prop 47 was primarily enacted to try and solve the mass incarceration that was happening. And what I mean by mass incarceration is that everyone realized that persons going to prison were going to prison for having small amounts of drugs in their pockets, or where they were either pleading to them and going to prison, or were going to prison. And what I mean by prison is they were getting a felony conviction and going to the Department of State Hospital, the Department of Corrections, for really low level offenses, right? They were persons who were habitually stealing low amounts of whatever it was, right?
whether it was necessities, whether it was diapers or food or stealing something, they were going to prison. And so the prisons were in themselves crowded and overcrowded. And so the solution to that was to create a system where those persons, identified as having a substance use disorder, they were mentally ill, or they were stealing low amounts, those were automatically classified as misdemeanors. They were going to be handled by the counties as misdemeanors. They were going to be serving sentences locally in their communities. Because oftentimes what was also seen in those prior to the passage of Prop 47 is that the counties, in order to solve their rising crime rate, was simply to ship them off to the state prisons, and it became a state problem. And so, not that I'm assuming that anybody would follow this, but if you're following what's happening after the passage of Prop 47 to Prop 36, is that the state was passing the responsibility where it needed to be, which is in the counties. So LA County had to solve its criminal problem. Ventura County had to solve its problems as well. So now we have the pendulum swings in one direction, right? Mm-hmm. And so now we're here at Prop 36. And the primary drive for Prop 36 really was the ballooning of coordinated retail theft, right? Is that we were bombarded by reports in the media and in social media that we were being overrun, right, by these coordinated retail theft individuals, and there was no solution for that other than to go back to prison, to incarcerating these people, incapacitating them, and sending them to prison. Prior to the passage of Prop 36, if anybody had been, if people were paying attention, was that the state was already trying to solve that by beginning to criminalize coordinated retail theft, so that if you were in a 5-person online group targeting certain things and going and what all of us, I think, saw was these smash and grabs, right? You would go there, take them and steal. And if you were doing that over and over again, the law was changed to make those felonies and make the level of how much you stole a felony and sent to prison. So these changes were already taking place prior to Prop 36. And so Prop 36 comes and now has said not only are we going to criminalize these coordinated retail thefts, we're going to go back to criminalizing and penalizing and incapacitating those individuals who steal, even if it's diapers, even if it's a chocolate bar. That can be now back to a prison sentence, incapacitation in state prison, and not handled here locally. One aspect of Prop 36, however, is that it aimed at solving this with a mandatory treatment component for those who were charged with drug offenses through Prop 36. Mm-hmm. That harkens back to 24 years ago when I started in the criminal legal system, where a judge ordered treatment instead of jail. It didn't work 24 years ago, and I really am very skeptical that it's going to work again 24 years later, because the capacity to treat individuals is limited. The places that clients can go for treatment, and it doesn't address the underlying reasons of why persons sometimes turn to substance use because of a lot of other issues going on with either their mental illness or their housing or everything else. And so we still are trying to treat or solve this
with incarceration.
Well, thank you for that answer. That certainly gives us a better perspective on the two propositions. Does the reclassification, now things that were previously misdemeanors are now felonies, does that make it easier to deport undocumented people?
Yes, absolutely. Because if you're charged, irrespective if you're charged with a felony, doesn't matter what the crime is, that makes you inadmissible, deportable, and revokes any sort of ability to immigrate to the country lawfully. So if you were here on a permit, that's revoked. If you were here and wish to naturalize, absolutely, that will revoke or eliminate any chance that you have for a path towards citizenship. Today, that pretty much is an automatic exclusion, and everyone should expect that with any criminal conviction, felony criminal conviction, you're high on the priority of this administration to be deported, irrespective if you were here undocumented, if you were here with a permit, on a visa, or had some sort of legal status.
And another concern, since felonies take more time to resolve than misdemeanors, I imagine that increases your workload and also the cost to your department and to the county. Is that correct?
Absolutely, 100%. A felony takes longer. It absolutely takes longer because in my office and in this county, we do not plead our clients guilty at first appearance. We have that case automatically, if it comes in as a felony, will get set for another proceeding. That's a continuance. That is more time. We must review the discovery and in all likelihood also take the case to a preliminary hearing to try to see what the evidence is. That's more time, right? The attorney then needs to prepare for that hearing. That hearing needs to take place. And even after that hearing, there's another court hearing where the case may or may not resolve. And if it's a mandated felony, mandated treatment felony like Prop 36 is, that's going to take more time because the person then needs to go into treatment. And once that person is in treatment, that means that there's going to be a future court date. And that case stays with my attorney. So that attorney has the Prop 36 case, but is still getting other cases. So it does. The more these cases stay on my attorney's caseloads, the increase of their workload and caseload, because there's two different things, increases. So it absolutely takes more time. And if the cases are taking more time, their caseloads and workloads are increasing.
And the cost of the county are increased.
Yes.
And I think you already mentioned it. Ventura County doesn't necessarily have the required services available for everybody who might need this treatment mandated felony conviction. Is
Right.
that right?
No, absolutely. And the focus really, if I had a magic wand and unlimited resources, you have to build the capacity to be able to take those individuals who want treatment and are ready to engage in treatment, to have a bed available for them immediately, right? And our county system doesn't have that. And oftentimes how we find, especially our felony clients, is that if there's no room at Kepra House, or if there's no treatment available here in county, we have to send them out of county. And that is additional cost, right? Mm-hmm. And hopefully that person has either Medi-Cal or a way of treating, a way of paying for it, because unfortunately, the mercenary aspect of this is that it costs money. And oftentimes people don't have money. Certainly our clients, if they had money, probably they wouldn't be engaging the public defender, but they do, because I 100%, I'm sure it wouldn't surprise anybody, I think that we are the best defense that money can't buy. All of our attorneys are from top universities and have a lot of experience and care about our clients. So, we need to have capacity to treat them, and we don't. And that's not something that is exclusive to Ventura County. If you go to every county, every public defender in every county will tell you that they're limited in terms of treatment capacity.
And what I understand from reading the papers is that our governor has not yet provided funding for Proposition 36. Is that correct? And if it is correct, how is the county dealing with the added expenses? Because I imagine you still have the provisions of Prop 36 have already taken effect, and you have to, yes. So how are you?
Absolutely. And I know that you've sat on these Board of Supervisors meetings where the two words of unfunded mandates, right? Mm-hmm. Is that you impose, is the voters said, we want to pass this resolution, but it is completely within the governor's prerogative to allocate funds to it. And the governor has not. And so does that mean that we stop doing the work? Oh, if this is a Prop 36 case, we're not going to represent them? No. The burden falls on the county and your county administration to fund it. And it's my responsibility to speak to my boss, CEO Dr. Johnson, and to say, and which we do, is to say, these are how many cases we're defending in Prop 36. These are how many cases have been filed as drug treatment mandated felonies. These are how many cases as a result of Prop 36 are being charged as felony thefts. And one thing to maybe to highlight is that each county in the state has a prosecutor. And those prosecutors are approaching these Prop 36 filings differently. You have very aggressive prosecutors in other counties that have already filed over 500, 700 criminal cases, felony criminal cases. One promise that our district attorney, Eric Nazarenko, which I'm very grateful for, and he has made good on that promise, is that he is taking these cases and making an individual assessment. There is no blank, everything's going to be a felony. You know, they are taking a very targeted, nuanced approach on drug mandated felonies and felony thefts. So that's, I definitely don't want anybody to come away from my conversation to say that that's what's happening. That's what our prosecutor is doing. No, he's not. And he's living up to that promise.
So maybe the effects aren't as severe in our county as they are in some other counties. Is that what you're saying? Excellent. Right.
So there's and I can share with you, Kathy. I'll share it with you, and then you can share it with your membership. The California Policy Institute came out with a report so far on the results of Prop 36. And I will share that with you because it does highlight for you where is Ventura County in terms of its filings as compared to other counties. And I think it's very informative in terms of the conservative approach that we're taking, but that doesn't mean that that none have been filed. Yes, some have been filed. That's still it still affects our caseload and our workload.
Is there anything else you would like to mention, Claudia, before we open it up to questions from the attendees?
No, other than I'm very open to know your rights presentations. If any of for your membership, as well as any other members who wish to have us come and speak to about knowing your rights. And it just doesn't have to surround immigration. It could be knowing your rights at a traffic stop. It could be knowing your rights in terms of myself or a family member or a neighbor is charged with a crime. What do I do? I'm very open to those invitations and available to speak and to present information, because I think the more that our community is empowered with information, the better decisions they can make for themselves and their loved ones. Even when it comes to a criminal case, your loved one may have a substance use disorder, may have a mental health disorder, and we address all of those every day here in our office. So I'm always available for information.
Well, thank you for that. We may take you up on that.
Of course.
Well, we really appreciate all this important information. You've done a great job. But at this time, we're going to open it up to questions from the attendees, and I'm going to turn it over to Betsy Patterson to facilitate that. So thank you again.
Of course.
Yes, thank you very much, Claudia. This was a very informative session, and I appreciate all that you've shared with us. At this point, I only have one question from the attendees, but please, if you have a question, please put it in the chat directed towards me, Betsy Patterson, so that we can answer any questions that everybody might have. The one question we did have was, what is the recidivism rate in Ventura County? Either the current rate or whatever you know most recently, or has it changed recently?
Our recidivism rate, so how many times a person who is charged with initially with a crime comes back through the criminal legal system, is 3. That means that that person gets charged with a crime, comes back, gets charged with another crime, comes back, gets charged with another crime, comes back. And oftentimes what we call in Ventura County, so 3 is our baseline, and that was studied by the probation department back when Prop 47 passed, because part of the what we call, part of how the state funds the criminal legal system, both the sheriff, the district attorney, public defender, is that it wants to see this recidivism rate go down. And so, I think through interventions, we try to measure if it's going to make a difference. Instead of someone coming through the criminal legal system 3 times, maybe down to 2. Of course, the goal is 0, right? Is that person through that intervention, they're charged, let's say, for example, they're charged with a drug offense, and we intervene, get them into substance use treatment, get them maybe get them some housing, and get them treatment for their underlying undiagnosed mental illness, and you don't see them throughout the probationary period, that recidivism rate is now 0. And if we can sustain that for 3 years, that brings down our overall rate of recidivism here in Ventura County.
And how does our rate in Ventura County compare to other counties?
That I don't have an answer for, because I haven't looked at the statistics in terms of the recidivism rate in a like for like county. So I would never compare my recidivism rate to that of LA County, certainly not Orange, San Bernardino, Riverside. And so the like for like would be a county with similar population and similar, oftentimes, like, for example, my county doesn't compare us to San Francisco, even though we are similarly situated to San Francisco because of our size, and by size, not only in population, but in office. So there's a lot of different components. And so like for like, I haven't, would probably be like maybe San Joaquin is a like for like. We're not a like for like with Santa Barbara, because Santa Barbara is much smaller. And as you can imagine, is also population wise is different.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, I have a new question, and I need to look at it a little bit to make sure I say it right. So this has to do with your role at the swap meet justice events. The question is, how many representatives from the Public Defender's Office normally attend? What kind of services are offered, and what information is shared from the Public Defender's Office? And how integral is it at the current moment with the ICE reports and immigration concerns throughout the county? That was a lot of questions.
No. So the role that we try to play at Swap Meet Justice is primarily informational, because as you can, if those of you who have gone to Swap Meet Justice, it's an open air forum, right? We have our tent there, and we usually we staff it with as many attorneys who want to volunteer, but at minimum we have one attorney, and we try to have one, possibly another Spanish speaking attorney. But we also have a law clerk, our immigration attorney, often a law clerk assisting with looking at information, because what we try to do is have it be so that you don't have to come back. Like, we try to give you meaningful information. So we're connected to the system here, what we call VESIGIS, but to the Ventura County Integrated Justice System. And so our law clerks, our attorneys, our legal, even our legal intern volunteers are connected to the system, so that if you come up to our tent and you say, you know, I have a conviction from 1989, we can go onto the system, get your date of birth, get your name, and see what your criminal history is, and then be able to give you meaningful, general advice about what to do. We do not give, try not to give specialized legal advice, because it's not protected, right? It's an open space. And so we try to be very mindful of an individual's privacy rights, and certainly don't want to mislead anybody. So anything that's very complex, we try to just have them make an appointment and come see our attorney or our law clerk during regular business hours. In this climate, I'm very sensitive to the fact that I don't want anybody to be fearful of coming to seek advice in such an open forum where there can be a potential for harm or arrest through immigration officers. And I know that currently there is some discussion, and certainly people are thinking about whether or not swap meet justice should be open this coming weekend. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot, as people, I certainly know that there's a lot of fear, and I think it's by design, right? It's intentional, and people have to first be very careful and just be aware of the harm that can happen in an open space.
So can a family member who is a U.S. citizen come and ask for information for their family member who's not documented, or who is potentially in the criminal justice system, or has a history in the past, that they would be a little less at risk for being picked up?
Yes.
Obviously.
Absolutely. Processing, given the information, let them know why you're asking. We're absolutely sympathetic to why you would be asking for a family member or a loved one those questions, and we would absolutely accommodate it. The one thing to keep in mind, though, is the really offensive part about this immigration enforcement is that it's racial profiling. So I can present a certain way, and they're not really interested, right? Because they are pulling people out of their cars. They are arresting people simply for presenting a certain way. And that level of racial profiling is what I think is very troubling and offensive today, is that the fact that I present a certain way, and there are others who may not present, who may be of darker skin, right? Or who may be speaking Spanish on the corner, and they're going to automatically assume that those individuals, or driving a certain car, right? Or being in a certain area. So if I happen to drive my car in Oxnard and present a certain way, I may be, confronted by an immigration officer. So all of those things need to be factored into when we, unfortunately, are in our communities, and that's what's so offensive about what's happening today.
And it doesn't seem as if they always give the person a chance to actually show their documents. Correct. At all. Yeah. So
correct.
Oh my gosh. We have that was a lot of information, and we really do appreciate what Swap Meet Justice does and what you offer and the support that you offer there, because it's so valuable. Another question that came in has to do more with special legal aid for veterans. Do you have any special services that you provide for veterans?
Yes. So some of your membership may be familiar with Stand Down. Veteran Stand Down. We used to have that in the county pre-COVID, and it has been brought back. And veterans who we thank for their service and may have some some need of either legal services, we can provide them. May have fees and fines that are outstanding and that they may need to clear those from the record. We absolutely can assist them. Our office has, and you can submit a question to our paralegals or our law clerks via email. Go on our website. You can set up, you don't necessarily have to come to this courthouse, which currently is, we've seen some ICE activity. And so I can understand where people may be somewhat hesitant to come here, but you can send us an email and we can have a virtual meeting with you and your loved one about your immigration consequences, about your fees and fines, about the fact that you're a veteran and may have outstanding fees and fines, or have a criminal case that you want to expunge for yourself or your loved one. You can do all of these things. If a silver lining exists with COVID, one of them is that it forced us to get our services online. And so our website is very comprehensive. It offers a lot of resources for you to engage with our office virtually, via email, and let's not forget a phone call. And yes, I'm showing my age, okay? And I'm always open. I do want to leave this with everyone here, as I am open for ideas on how we can make our services more available to everyone and to reach more people and to make them accessible to everyone. So if anybody has ideas, I'm always open. I say this to my office, I'm open to ideas. I am never going to claim that I have the monopoly on good ideas and how to do things. And so if there's a better way to do something and a better way to provide access and provide information that today doesn't put people at risk, I'm open to it. What we're doing is we never did this, but based on the current situation and the fear that exists, is we are appearing for clients on the first appearance. And so if people call our office and say, I don't want to come in, can you appear for me? Prior to this level of engagement by ICE, our response would be, no, we can't. You have to come to court. Now what we do is we send that individual a form virtually. We send them an email form. They fill it out so that we have to determine if they qualify for our services, because I can't just appear for everybody either. And if they qualify for our services based on the government code and they're indigent, we will make that first appearance and they don't have to come to court. The other avenue that I'm exploring is maybe that judicial officers would be open to Zoom, to having virtual court appearances.
Huh.
And so we're exploring that option.
And just a quick question. All of that communication, email, phone calls, the forms that get sent virtually, are protected, are secure? I mean, ICE doesn't have the right to come in and ask for all your computer files and emails on immigrants or veterans that have contacted.
Absolutely not. They do not have access to that. I will share with you, and I'll share it with Kathy too, is that we all county employees were sent an email by our chief executive officer, so it's Dr. Savette Johnson, that informed everybody that we do not share information with ICE. And one additional protection is that the public defender's office is a law firm. It's a law firm of 38 employees. Everything that we engage in, whether it's a phone call or an email or our electronic files, are covered by the attorney-client privilege by the state bar and the judicial council. And none of that can be revealed to third parties without there being a risk of us losing our license and certainly being sued. So you can, as you can imagine, that level of protection of attorney-client privilege is sacrosanct, and it is as old as our country. So you should feel very safe about that. That's also why we don't like to engage in giving legal advice in open spaces, because then you compromise attorney-client privilege and confidentiality more than anything.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, and I think we have come to the end of our questions. Now we're beginning to get a lot of thank you for your thank you for your service. Thank you for your presentation. So I'm going to turn this back to Kathy, I guess.
Okay. Well, thank you. That was so helpful, and we really appreciate your being here today and sharing all this information with us. It's clear to me that you do a lot, your department and you do a lot of good work and put your heart and soul into representing the people that you represent, and the outreach you do and everything I think is outstanding. So thank you for taking the time to meet with us today, and we really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you to everyone who was present. And if you want to send me the questions that were sent, and I'm more than happy to answer them and send them to you. I will send you that policy, the policy piece that shows you about Prop 36, so that you can share with everyone. It's a public document, so I'll just send it to you. And thank you very much. I really appreciate all of your time, and you're welcome to invite me back, and hopefully maybe give you an update on the great work that I think we're doing.
We would appreciate that. And for everybody who was in attendance today, if you had friends who weren't able to come and would like to watch the recording on our Zoom, please be advised it'll probably take about 48 hours for it to get edited and put in the Zoom. And if you have any suggestions for future Learn with the League topics, please reach out. You can put them in the chat, or you can reach out to our League and let us know your ideas. We are always looking for who else would be good to invite to speak with us. So that concludes today's presentation. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And let's give Claudia a big round of applause virtually. Thank you very much.